Welcome to Tales of Unusual, stories that remind us even the most loyal companions can guard secrets too heavy for us to carry alone. Tonight's tale is about loneliness, loyalty, and what lurks behind a pair of trusting eyes. This is the story of a man and a dog. Sit down, get comfortable, and listen closely. Not all best friends are what they seem. Thomas lived alone in a small house at the edge of town. He was quiet, invisible to his neighbors, just a tired man with a job he hated and an empty bed he never made. One rainy night, he found a stray dog curled under his porch, a big, black dog with matted fur and eyes too bright for the darkness. Thomas brought him inside, fed him scraps, wrapped him in an old blanket. When the dog looked at him, Thomas felt seen for the first time in years. He named him Shadow. In the weeks that followed, Thomas and Shadow became inseparable. They walked the same lonely streets every night, the dog padding close, never barking, never pulling away. Neighbors started to notice Thomas again. They smiled at him, commented on his beautiful dog. Shadow never growled, never bit, but sometimes, at night, Thomas would wake to find him sitting at the foot of the bed, staring at him with unblinking eyes. Once, Thomas swore he heard a voice when he drifted back to sleep. Good boy, or good man. He laughed it off in the morning. Maybe he just needed sleep. One night, a man tried to break into Thomas's house. Thomas froze in his kitchen, clutching a knife, but Shadow moved first, a black blur, teeth flashing in the dark. There was a scream, a crash, then silence. The intruder vanished, leaving only blood on the porch and a trail that led into the woods. Shadow returned to Thomas, tail wagging, tongue warm against his trembling hand. Thomas didn't call the police. He buried the memory deep. From that night on, he trusted Shadow with everything, his safety, his secrets, his fears. But Shadow was changing. He grew larger, too large for the small house. His eyes seemed brighter, his fur darker, his paws silent on the creaking floors. Thomas found himself confiding in the dog, whispering old regrets, drunken confessions at 3 a.m. Shadow listened, always watching, tail flicking slowly. Sometimes, Thomas woke with scratches on his arms, not bites, just marks like claws had traced his veins. He told himself it was nothing. But at night, the dreams came of teeth, fur, and a voice that said, "We're the same, you and I, one stormy night." Thomas heard scratching at the door, not from Shadow, but from something outside. Shadow sat by the window, staring at Thomas instead of the noise. Thomas opened the door. Another dog stood there, identical to Shadow, but dripping wet, eyes dull. It collapsed at his feet, its fur falling away in clumps. Thomas turned to Shadow, but the dog was gone. In its place stood a figure, tall, lean, eyes shining like a predator's in the lightning flash. It spoke in a voice that filled the room. "I kept you safe. I fed on what you gave me. Now we are one." Thomas ran, but the house stretched on forever. Hallway after hallway, each wall covered in deep scratches, fur and teeth in the shadows. He saw himself in the mirrors, changing, growing dark patches of fur along his arms, his teeth sharper when he screamed. "You were lonely. You called me. You fed me with fear and secrets." The figure stepped closer, half man, half beast, a shadow of Thomas himself. "Now stay. Be loyal. Be more than alone." When the neighbors found the house weeks later, it was empty, except for muddy paw prints that never dried. They say sometimes, late at night, a big black dog can be seen walking alone on Thomas's street, fur slick, eyes too bright. It stops by dark porches, sniffs at lonely windows. Some say if you let it in, it will keep you safe. Some say you'll never be alone again. But remember, loyalty has a cost, and sometimes the thing that guards you the closest is the thing that wants you the most. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that follow you home. Sleep well tonight and check your porch.